Now that we've identified the top suppliers that we want to work with and we've crafted our opening message and we're now sure that we want to place this order, what we also want to achieve is to get a low minimum order quantity on the first order. Even if we plan on placing really large volumes very soon, or if we've already achieved scale in our business, it's still very, very important for the first order to place a trial order first. And that's not just to, get a low minimum order quantity. We also want to trial, okay, do they ship on time? Is the quality okay? Do they pass their third-party inspections? Do they clear customs okay? So we're just really giving them the test first to make sure that they can meet our requirements. And then after we've gone through the order process fine, we've had the goods delivered into Amazon, we didn't have many negative reviews or any returns. So we're like, okay, cool. This is a supplier which passed the test. We can build and grow with them. So now we want to go and place those larger orders. But first, we want that trial order, which is typically going to be a low MOQ. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my strategies of how we can get a low minimum order quantity without inflating the price. So let's get into it. Okay, guys, so here we go. We are now going to go over how do we get the low MOQ. So this is just an image with myself with a supplier in China. I just put that there for no reason. But let's just go on to the MOQ. So my first point is, in order to get low MOQ, minimum order quantity, the best way to do this is to show our strength and leverage and make the supplier want to work with you. Now, we covered this in the supplier outreach video. We mentioned a little bit about ourselves. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here. So how can we build strength? How can we show leverage? How can we make the supplier want to work with us? Even if we're just establishing our business today, you might think, oh, I don't have that strength. I don't have that leverage yet. Well, here's a good few examples that you can use. So I like to say we have multiple sales channels. We sell on Amazon and we sell on Shopify, or whatever other website that you sell on. You can mention that as well. So you're not just limited to only Amazon. And that's even if you're building your Shopify store or you plan to do one in the future. Then I'm going to mention where we're selling, both online and offline, and that offline can exist of independent stores, retailers, even garage sales, as I mentioned, and online can take many different shapes and forms as well. Then we also mentioned that we work with the top influencers and KOLs, which again is a key opinion leaders. And you can also reference the volumes of your orders. And if it's a new product that you've never done before, well, you can reference the volumes of other items. Like, let's say you're a very big seller for water bottles, and now you want to get into, I don't know, coffee, the French press, right? You can say that this is our bottle business. We're normally doing 2,000 units per month, and now we're going to get into the French press business. So you kind of set the precedent of, like, how to sell products, how to be successful. Now this is a new product that you want to select, and they're anticipating that you can also grow your order volumes to that size as well. Then you also want to highlight which markets you supply, because and even if you don't supply these markets yet, you can mention which markets you intend to supply, not just the US market, but you're also going to be selling in the UK market, the European market, and also possibly the Japanese market as well. And why this is important is that the more markets that you sell into, the more desirable of a customer that you are for that supplier. And I'll give you a quick example. When Trump put the tariffs up a couple of years ago and imposed massive import duties on certain products, well, now it was much harder to export products to the USA. What a product which was 15% duty is now 40% duty, so that product maybe not be profitable anymore. But if you say, hey, we also do the same product into the UK and the Japanese market, they aren't affected, so they know that you're still going to be purchasing from that factory. The more markets that you supply. And then you can also mention how many years experience you have in your industry. So for example, this might be your first year selling online and you're doing a yoga mat, but let's say you've been a yoga instructor for the last 5 years or 15 years. You say that I have 15 years experience with this product. So they're not only looking at you like, okay, you're a very serious customer, but you're also someone which can help them improve the product as well, because you are a product practitioner and you know a lot about this product as well. So that's very valuable to them. So the things that we've covered here in order to show our strength and show our leverage makes the supplier want to feel like, okay, this is a customer I want to work with. So if the minimum order quantity is 1,000 units, but you only want 300. Well, they're a lot more likely to give you that 300 now, because you've said that the right things for them, that they want to work with you for the long term. So you've kind of dangled the carrot, if you will, to be like, hey, we're a big customer. We can grow together. These are everywhere that we supply, how we sell, where we're selling. And they're just thinking, okay, well, if we just do this order for 300 units, even though we're not going to make much money on it, but hey, at least we've got in that customer that we wanted. But if you never stated any of these things and then you ask for the 300 pieces, they're a lot less likely to give it to you. Now, second point on how to get a lower MOQ is to find a smaller manufacturer. And if you go on Alibaba.com and kind of the process that we went through before, on the left side of the screen, right at the bottom, you'll see this image here, which is a number of employees. And you can sort of click on if you want the factory with 5 to 10 employees or 11 to 50 employees. And generally, when you want a lower MOQ, this is a time where you click on the factories which have less people and less workers in it. Because if they're a small factory with only 10 employees, they're a lot more likely to do that smaller order quantity for you, because they're also a small manufacturer and they want to grow and they want to build with you. But if you find a factory which has got 2,000 employees, they have certain systems in place and certain procedures that it's not even in their capability to manufacture just 300 units, because it takes so long to train the production line of how to make something. And by the time they make 300 units, it's done in a few hours, that it didn't make sense for the workers to go through that training just to work for half a day. So, you know what I mean? You can get the lower MOQ from generally the smaller manufacturers. Here's a couple more images. Number 3 is visit China, show images of previous trips, or state the intention of visiting. Now, as I mentioned before, the suppliers take the customers who visit China a lot more seriously. So if you have visited China before and you're contacting your suppliers now through Alibaba, you can show images of, oh, hey, here's when I was in China in 2018. Here's me in 2015. Here's me when I was at this train station or whatever it may be. But if you show that you've been there, then they take you more seriously as a customer. Now, if you've never been to China before, that's okay. And travel has obviously been restricted for some time. So you can also state the intention of visiting. Hey, when China opens back up, I'm going to be on the first plane there. Or when the Canton Fair becomes available again, I'm going to be there. And I look forward to visiting you and your factory. And then now that's them taking you more seriously. And the more serious that they take you, the more they want to work with you. The more they want to work with you, the lower MOQ that they're going to give you. And then here's a really important point. Number 4, I always like to say that the first order is a trial order, right? And this is super, super important. And this is not only just a tactic to get a low MOQ, it's actually just very important in business in general. Even if you wanted to order 5,000 pieces, if it's your first time working with that supplier, it should be a trial order. Or if it's your first time doing this new product with an existing supplier, it should be a trial order. And the trial order is there in place to make sure that not only that the quality is fine, but also does the supplier ship on time? Do they pass a third-party inspection? Does the goods get cleared through customs okay? If I have any returns, does the supplier take responsibility for it? And these are the little tests that you have to give the supplier, that once they pass all these tests and you've done your order for 300 pieces or 500 pieces, but now you can go back and give the big order for like 2,000 pieces because they've passed all those tests. So whether you want a low minimum order quantity or not, it's very, very important to mention that you want the trial order. But if you didn't want a trial order and you just want a low MOQ, saying that you want a trial order is a very good way to disguise that you want a low MOQ, because, hey, I was willing to place an order for 2,000 pieces, but I have to do a trial order first. And they understand that, and therefore they will give you that lower minimum order quantity. Next, I would also like to ask the suppliers, what materials are you holding in stock? Because you can see in the image on the top right, I'm going through some different materials, and I was choosing different materials here for a backpack that I was developing. And just bear in mind that factories hold so much material in stock because they know they have regular production for many different brands, that they know that every year they order 20,000 units. So they might hold materials for 100,000 units in stock because they bulk purchased it, and they know over time that material is going to get used. The same way that customers might also cancel orders. One customer might place an order for 10,000 pieces, but whatever happened, they went out of business or they chose to go with a different product and they canceled the order after they placed the deposit. Well, when the manufacturer received that deposit, then they went and ordered all the materials. So they're now holding those materials in stock and they have to get rid of them at a cut price. So if you ever want a low minimum order quantity, I would also ask the suppliers, hey, which materials are you holding in stock? And normally the minimum order quantity is there because they have to go and buy the minimum fabric. And the minimum fabric is on a fabric roll, it's 1.5 meters wide and 1,000 yards long. And they calculate with that 1.5 meter roll how many pieces of your product that they can manufacture. And that is your MOQ. Now, if you're using material which they already hold in stock, then they don't have to go and buy any material. So your minimum order quantity can be as small as you want, whether it's 30 pieces, 80 pieces, 150 pieces, as long as you're using materials that they hold in stock. So you can always ask them, okay, I know you can't do the MOQ, but what stock materials can I use? And then that's a good way to lower your initial order quantity. And a good one is that it's always so important to ask the supplier to explain the minimum order quantity. Why is it that, like, if they say the MOQ is 1,500 pieces, rather than saying, oh, sorry, that's too much for me, just say, okay, that's interesting. Can you let me know why it's 1,500 pieces? And then they get granular and they give you the reason why. And then through that, you can actually solve the issue for them. For example, they might say, oh yeah, well, the packaging that you want, the packaging box manufacturer gives us a minimum of 1,500 pieces. The product itself is only 500 pieces, but the packaging is 1,500. So we're obviously not going to sell that packaging to anyone else. So that's why your MOQ is 1,500 pieces. I would say, oh, really? Well, that's interesting because I actually only want 500 pieces. I understand your minimum order quantity for the packaging is 1,500 pieces. And if you want, I'll pay for the 1,500 pieces of the packaging. Keep that in your warehouse, ship out the 500 pieces that I need, and then you hold that 1,000 pieces of extra packaging in your warehouse, which I've already paid for. And then when you go back to reorder that item, you've already paid for the packaging and it's already sitting there. So it's already there for you, good to go. But you've solved your issue of the minimum order quantity just because you asked them to explain why the MOQ is like that. So you can get a lot of insight and you can get a lot of information from your manufacturer just by simply asking why. And step 7, my final step, is really consider how much customization you require on the product. For example, if you want this custom Scottish tartan material, they know that they can't use that material for anyone else because that's highly customized and that's only for you. So they're going to give you the actual fabric minimums, as I mentioned before. But if you say, right, we just want this blue fabric, we're not too fussed about what type of blue it is, just what blue can you offer us? They're thinking, well, okay, even if we get left over with, if the minimum order quantity for the fabric is 1,000 units and they only order 500, okay, we're going to get left with 500 products worth of blue fabric. But hey, blue is quite a popular color, so we can probably sell that to someone else and we can use it on other products. So okay, we'll do the 500 pieces on the blue. So that way you've managed to reduce the minimum order quantity because you didn't ask for something too customized. As you get bigger and as your orders start to grow and as you start to order more than the minimum order quantity, that's when you should start to get customized to exactly what you want. But as you're growing and as you're building and as you're scaling, you might want to consider just having a less customized product in order to get a lower minimum order quantity. So those are the top 7 tips on how to get a low minimum order quantity. And I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. So finally, we have our favorite supplier, we've crafted our opening message, we've got the low MOQ that we require. And now what we really want to establish is, are we getting the best price for this product? So how do we find out what is the best price? How do we negotiate the price to the lowest that we can be while still being fair? Because I always say in China, you can get any price that you want. If you want a $5 price for an $8 item, you can get that, but you're going to feel it in the quality and your negative reviews. So we really want to get the lowest possible price whilst maintaining the quality standards that we want. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my strategies of how we get the lowest price. Let's dive into it. So here we go, how to negotiate price. again, I've got a couple of images with a few of my suppliers, a few of my friends in China. And the top right, that's me and my brother having dinner with one of our suppliers in Guangzhou after a long day at the fair. So the first point, imitate and innovate. This is a good way to get a price, because what I like to say is, first of all, I don't like to copy products. I don't like to just take what someone else is doing and sell that, because it's a race to the bottom in terms of price. But what I do like to do is take a concept that already works and innovate on top of it, which is what I mean by imitate and innovate. I have to bring something out to the market which I know is better than what already exists out there. But the reason that I would take a concept that already works, and I would only do this from a product that I've seen from a certain factory, is that they have already made this product. So they've already gone through all the teething issues and the teething problems of when they were doing the cutting patterns, like let's say it's a backpack, when they were making the back panel, when they were adding the foam in the shoulder straps, when they were adding the waterproof coating, when they were adding the inside lining, they've already figured all that out, and they've already made all the cutting patterns. They've already shaped all the molds for cutting the fabric. So now you're saying, okay, I like this product, but I want to add an additional layer of waterproof coating, or I want to add a rain cover that comes out of the bottom, which can cover the bag, or I want to change the color to a sandy desert color because I want to sell this to a market in the Middle East, which they go out into the desert. So you can innovate on top of a concept that already works, but you're not going to get charged the development cost of it because someone has already gone through developing that item and you've just made a change on top of it. So that is a good way to get an existing product at a low price and not have to pay for the development costs. Then I would also say work in partnership with your supplier and work with suppliers for the long term. And we covered this in the reach out message. I made it very clear that about those words, long term. And the suppliers like those customers who work in partnership and they work in the long term. So they're not thinking, a supplier's not thinking, right, how much money am I going to make from this order? They're thinking about how much money am I going to make from this customer over the next 3, 5, 10 years. And when you stipulate we're going to be working together for the long term, they're thinking about 5 to 10 years worth of orders, not maximize profit on the first order. So they don't mind to give you the fair price. They don't mind to give you a good price for you because they want to lock you in as a customer. But the key is to having those key words of partnership and long term and make that explicitly clear. And once you use those words, just watch how happy your supplier gets. And if you've ever seen much of my content before, you'll see how much I stress the importance of building relationships with your suppliers. Now, the best way to build these relationships, as you can see from the images, is going to China and doing it face-to-face or going to trade shows and things like that. But you can also build relationships via WeChat. And for those of you who don't know, WeChat is an application on your phone. That's the Chinese equivalent to Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or anything like this. And while you want to have all your formal conversations on email where you're confirming the price and the delivery date and showing images of the product, I use WeChat to build up my relationship, and I'll have conversations like, hey, how was your weekend? What did you get up to? Can you send me some photos of what a typical Chinese dinner looks like? Hey, this is me and my friends. We're at the game. And it's like you want to get comfortable with just having text conversations with them so that when you have something quick that you need to resolve, like, oh, hey, these goods need to ship out next week. Can you just go down to the factory real quick and share a video with me of that the goods are ready? You've already got that relationship with them on WeChat. And the better relationships that you have with the supplier, the better price that you're going to get. Because at the end of the day, people do business with people. And once you develop that closeness with your supplier, I'll give you an example. One of my suppliers turned into becoming one of my best friends. And he asked me to name his child because they give their child a Chinese name and also an English name. He asked me to name his child in English. And what a great privilege and honor for me. But I'm thinking, well, this is a guy who likes me enough to allow me to name his child. He's not going to screw me on the price when I'm buying products from his factory, right? So that all came from building relationships over time and sharing experiences together. And WeChat is the best way for you to start to build those relationships. And as you grow them over the months and over the years, you can start to see that you actually will get the best prices for your products. And it's actually just a lot of fun as well to be in business with people that you get along with. Next, to get a low price, you also want to ask what materials that they're holding in stock. And we touched on this in the last lesson when we were referring to getting a low MOQ, that you want to ask what materials they're holding in stock. Well, same goes for the price as well. If they're holding materials in stock, that might be a material which they purchased 1 year ago or 2 years ago, or it's from a cancelled order. So it's costing them a lot less. And sometimes they just want to get these materials out of their factory because it's just been sat there for so long. So quite often, if you ask for a price on something which they're holding in stock, you can get a much lower price than if it's something to be quite new and they have to go and pay today's labor costs and they have to pay today's raw material cost. So you can get the price down by asking for stock materials. Oh, that's the WeChat logo, which has just decided to appear now. If you're looking in the App Store to download the app WeChat, that's what it looks like. My next point on how to get a low price is to, and this is probably the most important out of the 10 points which I'm going to go over, is get the full specification sheet and compare apples with apples. And I'm going to show you an example of what a specification sheet looks like on the next slide. But the reason why I say is get the full specification sheet is, let's take an example of a furniture chair, an outdoor furniture chair, right? You might go on Alibaba, talk to 3 different suppliers, say, hey, what's the price for that furniture chair? And you get the price like $6.50, $7, $7.30. But everyone's quoting on different things because they're quoting on how they make their furniture chair. But you haven't said to them, this is the chair that I want to purchase. So what you want to do is create a specification sheet. This is something that you can make yourself, which has just got a basic image of the product, the materials, the dimensions, any Pantone colors, any detail you have about the product. You just write it down in a Google Doc, or you just add some images, you PDF it, you add your logo, and you send that out. And that is your specification sheet. And then what's interesting is, as you start to get the prices back, and sorry, on the specification sheet, you would mention, okay, this is the outdoor furniture chair. We're using steel tubing. This is the thickness of the steel. This is the dimensions of the chair, 40 by 80 centimeters. The chair material is 600D polyester. And you've given all these specifications. So everyone is quoting on the exact same thing. But before, supplier A was quoting for aluminium tubing and supplier B was quoting for steel tubing. Supplier C was quoting for nylon fabric, but supplier B was quoting for polyester fabric. So even though the products look the same on an image, they're actually completely different specifications. So it's so important to have a specification sheet. And you don't necessarily have to make the specification sheet yourself. You could also take a product you like from online, from Alibaba, ask them, can I get the specification sheet of that product? And then you take it and you just delete their company information. You add your logo on top, you change a couple words, you PDF it, and then you send out that document to the top 5 suppliers that you identified. And then you say, can I get the full price for this particular specification? And what happens is that you start to get the pricing back now. You get $6.90, $7, $7.05, $6.85. And then you're like, okay, cool. The ballpark sum for this product is around $7. And I know that because I've identified the top manufacturers. I've given them all the same information and they all quoted around $7. That way, if someone gives you a price for $4, you know that's an outlier because that's someone who's giving you a price which is too good to be true, and they're going to take shortcuts in the quality, and you're going to feel that later on in negative reviews and returns. The same way, if someone gives you a price of $12, they're trying to take advantage and they're going to add a much higher margin onto the price, but you know that price is not true, because you figured out what is the exact cost of goods. And then when you do want to negotiate price, you can negotiate it in a fair way because you know that the ballpark price for that product is $7. So if you get it down to maybe $6.75, you know that's a fair price because that is slightly lower than the lowest price that you got. So that's a price that you know the supplier will be comfortable coming down to, and you also know it's a fair price for them as well. So on this slide, this is just a typical backpack, something that I had made before. And this went into a little bit more detail. I wanted to show a sketch of all 4 sides. I wanted to show what the product looked like on each side, what the back panel looked like, where the handle goes, what webbing loops I have on the shoulder strap, the front and back pockets, top and bottom. And this is just the design of it. And the other tabs on the top are for bill of materials, the fabrics, what's the capacity, any Pantone colors, any particular comments that I've got from the first sample that they sent. And this is maybe quite technical, right? You don't have to be as technical as this. You can also ask your factory to get their quote sheet. And this is what a quote sheet looks like. This is just a sample of the item number, a picture of the item, and then, apologies, the wording is a little bit blurry here, but it's got some of the specifications, the dimensions, the materials, the testing it has, how the logo is printed on, how it's packaged, how many units come in a carton, what the quantity is. And then you know that, okay, if I use the specification and I send that to other suppliers, well, now I know everyone's quoting for the same thing and you're getting the right price. So this is the most important takeaway, I think, from this lesson, is that really get the specification sheet, really understand how much is the cost of the product that you're looking for, compare all your quotes, and then you're in a position to negotiate from there. So here's another image of me in a factory making an item, and that's another supplier. I don't know why I'm holding a teddy bear in a tea shop, but I am. But that was a great night anyway. So point number 6 is don't go too hard. And we kind of touched on this before, in that if the fair price for the product is $7, don't try and get $5, because you know that price is too good to be true. And all that's going to happen is you're going to have production issues later on. The key was to find out what is the actual price and then agree on a fair price for you and the manufacturer. Now, another tactic that I like to use is something called upsell quantity. And what I mean by this is that you ask the supplier, what is the MOQ? Let's say, for example, they say it's 1,000 pieces. Well, I'm going to say, okay, cool. Can you give me the price for this product for 1,000 pieces, 5,000 pieces, and 10,000 pieces? And even though my intention was always to order 1,000 pieces, I want to see what is their cost of 5,000 and 10,000, because remember, all these prices are above the MOQ. I've already hit their minimum order quantity. So now when I see what is their price for 5,000 pieces and 10,000 pieces, I know that's the lowest price they're willing to go to. And now I'll use that in my negotiation, and I'll say, let's say, for example, the price for 1,000 pieces is $7 and the price for 10,000 pieces is $6. I'll say to the supplier, hey, I'm only going to be placing $1,000 pieces for this order because it's a trial order. However, I anticipate that this year, if everything goes well with this order, that in several orders' time, I'll be placing 10,000 pieces per order. But what I really need from you is to give me the price for 10,000 pieces, but I'm only placing the trial order of 1,000 pieces. And why I ask this is that this is turning into quite a competitive product in my market. And if I can make a cost saving here, if you could be so generous to give me the price for 10,000 pieces, what I can do is I'll pass that price saving on to my customer, and I will enter the market at the lowest possible price. And for that reason, I'll be able to gain more sales more quickly. I'll be able to gain market share. And then as a result, I'll be able to come back with that larger order for 10,000 pieces much quicker, because I've been able to sell more products because I'm able to offer them a lower price. And the supplier may not give you that $6 price, but they might go halfway and give you $6.50. And you know that that was something that they were willing to go to because you saw how low they were willing to take their price based on the different quantity levels. So I call that upsell quantity. That's something I've been doing for quite a while, which I've had quite a lot of success with. So I just wanted to share that with you. You want to ask for the price in 3 different price brackets, and then you want to use that in your negotiation. Another good thing is that you can explain who your customers are and ask for credit. And what I mean by this is that the suppliers don't necessarily know where you're selling, right? So if you're selling on Amazon, sometimes Amazon pays you every 2 weeks, or they pay you at the end of the month. Or if you supply a retailer, retailers can take up to 60 or 90 days to pay you. And for that reason, sometimes your suppliers don't know that. And you have, let's say you pay your deposit on your stock 2 months before, so you start the production 2 months later, it's ready. So you've paid your deposit, and then you have your production 2 months later. Then you supply to your customer, which is your retailer, and you get paid by your retailer 3 months later. So from when you've paid your initial deposit to when you've been paid by your customer has been 5 months. And suppliers don't know sometimes the burden that causes on our cash flow. So if you say, hey, look, these are my customers, this is who I'm supplying, Amazon pays me at the end of the month, my other retailer customer pays me 3 months later, if you could be so kind as to give me credit on my order, and charge I can pay the invoice 30 days after the goods have been received, or if you can reduce the deposit amount to 10% and 50% when the goods ship, and the remaining 40% 30 days later. They're a lot more open to this after you've explained who you supply. But it's very unlikely that you get this on your first order. You need a couple of orders to go through to show that you're a serious customer and your orders are continuing and your orders are increasing. And then you can start to ask for credit. That could be credit, or it could be a price decrease as well. And next, what I would say is choose your partner wisely. And what I mean by this is that, as I said, you're going to be working with these guys for the long term. You're going to be working for the next, 3, 5, 10 years with these particular suppliers. You're going to be visiting China. You're going to be going out for dinner together. You're going to be emailing every 5 or 6 days. So why not get into business with someone that you actually get along with, right? And then it's going to feel a lot less like work. And then as a result, you're going to build that relationship better. And as a result, you're going to get a better price. So the person that you get along with best is more likely to be a better business partner for you, because you're in this for the long term. And that's all going to transcend into getting offered new products, getting offered more products, getting competitor insights in terms of, hey, this is working great for this customer in Japan, I think you should try it out. And as well as getting a lower price as well. And the other thing I would say is that you have to monitor the exchange rates, and also we all know about the cost of freight, how it's increased so much in 2021 and at the back end of 2020. And you can use this to your advantage. So for example, you can go to a website called xe.com, and you can track the dollar against the RMB, and you can see, okay, if you've historically placed orders with your factory in 2015 and 2018 and 2020, you can say that, okay, hey, in May of 2018, I gave you an order for $50,000. And in November of 2020, I also gave you an order for $50,000. However, I can see that the exchange rate has benefited 10% in your favor. And here's a screenshot of the RMB strengthening 10% against the dollar. Therefore, you've made an extra $5,000 just on the exchange rate alone. And I'm not asking you to just give me 5% so I can make more profit, but I'm asking you to give me a price reduction of something close to that, so I can offer that reduction to my customers, so I can make more sales. More sales for me is more orders for you. Anytime I'm asking for a discount here, I'm always leading it back to, this is going to work out in your favor. And then as we go to the freight, I'm mentioning that the freight prices increased. Let's say the container price was $3,000 and now it's $10,000. The cost of a container has increased $7,000. So what I would say to my supplier is, hey, you can see that the cost of freight has increased $7,000. If I now, with this increase, there's not much margin in this product for me, so I'm considering not to order it anymore. But if I don't place any orders, then I don't make any sales. If I don't make any sales, then you don't get any orders. So in order to keep this line going, what I'd really appreciate is if we could split the freight cost 50-50. So it was $3,000, now it's $10,000. It's gone up $7,000. Let's split that 50-50. So if you can contribute $3,500 to the freight costs, I would greatly appreciate that, and we can continue ordering this product. Now, some suppliers will be very welcoming and will say, yeah, no problem, I agree with you, business has been slow, yeah, here's a $3,500 contribution. And some will say no, and some will also meet you halfway. Well, I can't contribute $3,500, but I can contribute $1,500. And that $1,500 is much better than nothing. So that's a way that maybe you're not getting a deduction off the price of your goods, but you're getting a deduction in your freight and other aspects of your business as well. And the final thing I would say in terms of getting a better price, and this corresponds to the image that's shown on the right here, is make one item yourself. And this is a travel bag that I was working on. And the reason why I show this is that before I ever went into a backpack factory, I just thought of a backpack as one piece, one unit on a shelf in a store. But when I went into the factory, I saw it on a production line, and I saw it in 30 different pieces. I saw the shoulder straps, the foam that goes in the shoulder straps, the webbing, the buckles, the zippers, the pullers, the inside lining, the waterproof coating. And now when I say, like, okay, I've got a $15 product and I need to make it a $12 product, I've got 30 different calculations I can make in my head of how to decrease the cost of this product without jeopardizing the quality. But I know that, and I can go to those calculations because I've been able to make one item myself. Now, I'm not saying for you guys, okay, now I need to go to China and I need to go to my factory and see how products are made. That would be great. But even if you can't do that, you can still take one of your items that you have in your home that you're manufacturing, and you can deconstruct it, if you will. You can unstitch it. You can see what the padding of the shoulder straps looks like on the inside. Well, hey, maybe I don't need it this thick. You can completely deconstruct any other product as well and just get into the details of the product, ask your suppliers question, and figure out where are the biggest cost aspects of this particular product. And you only learn that from making it yourself or deconstructing an item yourself. So I hope you guys learned a little bit there about pricing, and I hope you enjoyed the models which I presented about sourcing. Enjoy, guys. Take care and happy sourcing.